Good morning once again. And in the last session, we had seen the basic concepts of the GST. What are the principles on which GST is based upon, correct? And what and how it was important in India to bring GST, roll out the GST. और उसके बाद हमने ये भी देखा कि इंडिया हैज अ डुअल सिस्टम ऑफ जीएसटी जहां पे स्टेट और सेंटर बोथ लेवी द टैक्सेस as far as the transactions are concerned. This is what we have understood as far as the previous sessions were covered. After that, we also understood जो taxes subsume हो गए हैं, जो taxes GST के अंदर मिल गए हैं, प्लस जो taxes GST से अभी तक नहीं मिले हैं in terms of indirect taxes, वो कौन से taxes हैं, we understood that also. करेक्ट. नाउ वी विल गो इन मोर इन डिटेल कि ये जीएसटी क्या ऐसे ही आ गया, क्या कोई प्रोविजन नहीं है इसको लाने का, और अगर कोई प्रोविजन है तो ये कौन सा प्रोविजन है जिसके थ्रू ये जीएसटी को रोल आउट किया गया इन इंडिया. करेक्ट. बिकॉज व्हाट इज द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट विच हैज बीन मेड as far as this particular GST is concerned. Correct. So let us just understand that how does a constitution work. कोई भी अगर लॉ को अमेंड करना है या कोई भी अगर लॉ को लेके आना है तो व्हाट आर द वेरियस प्रोविजंस इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन दैट नीड्स टू बी टेकन केयर ऑफ. करेक्ट. सो इंडिया बेसिकली हैज अ 3-tier फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर, राइट. सो वो 3-tier फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर क्या है हम वो समझेंगे. देन अंडर द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन वी हैव वेरियस आर्टिकल्स जहां पे इट हैज बीन मेंशन्ड कि क्या एक्टिविटी होगा क्या एक्टिविटी नहीं होगा. देन वी विल गो एंड अंडरस्टैंड ईच लाइन आइटम आर्टिकल वाइज, and then we will see how GST came into picture so that we understand this in totality. This particular topic may carry around say 2 marks in your exam paper where they will ask you the constitutional amendment parts as far constitutional amendment what has happened to roll out GST. Correct. So let us understand this in detail. Now, India has a 3-tier federal structure. 3-tier federal structure, that means it has 3 layers of structure as far as the government is concerned. So different structure, the power to levy, right? So what are the different structure? Let us understand these different structures. So the union government, that is the central, जो दिल्ली में जो बैठे हैं, union government is the central government. उसके बाद आता है state government. Every state government has their own government. And उसके बाद आता है the local government, right? So these are the 3 structures which are available as far as the Indian federal structure is concerned. So there are 3 structures. One is the union government, second is the state government, and third is the local government. So this is the 3-tiered different structure as far as India is concerned. जहाँ पे government कुछ policies बनाता है, that means central government, state government कुछ policies बनाता है, and then the local government also makes certain kind of a policies. Now the power to levy, अब जो levy करने का है, tax जो impose करने का है, टैक्स का बर्डन किसी पे डालने का है, वो किसके पास है पावर? द पावर टू लेवी द ड्यूटीज एंड टैक्सेस, राइट. क्या लेवी करेंगे? ड्यूटीज एंड टैक्सेस. इट इज डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड अमॉन्ग द 3 tiers ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट. जो 3 tiers हमने यहाँ पे देखे, द ड्यूटीज एंड टैक्सेस को जो लेवी कर रहे हैं उसका पावर भी जो है इन 3 tiers के ऊपर डिस्ट्रीब्यूट किया गया है. It is in accordance with the provisions of the Indian Constitution. Now, where this has been mentioned कि कौन-कौन tax और duty लगा सकता है as per these 3 tiers of structure, it has been mentioned in the provisions of the Indian Constitution itself. Clear, everybody? Now, in case any tax, be it on any act, rule, notification, order और not in conformity, अगर कोई act, कोई tax है, अगर वो that is not in conformity with any act, any rule, any notification or order, that means there are 2 different acts and they are disputing with each other, right? Contradictory acts, contradictory rules, contradictory notifications. So in that scenario, what is going to happen that if it is contradictory with the constitution, right? Constitution कुछ बोलता है, act कुछ और बोलता है. Constitution says कि 1 + 1 = 2, but the act says कि 1 + 1 = 3. If there is a contradiction in that scenario, it is called as ultra virus the constitution. Correct? That means मैं constitution के खिलाफ में act कुछ बोल रहा है, right? So whenever a act, a rule or notification or order, it is not in conformity with the constitution, then that particular act, that particular rule, that particular notification, that particular order is called as ultra virus the constitution. Clear, everybody? Now If it is an ultra virus, if it is breaching the constitution, if it is going against the constitution, then it is called as illegal and void from the beginning. Correct? That means अगर कोई act है, कोई rule है, कोई notification है, if it is going against the constitution of India, then it is called as ultra virus. और अल्ट्रा वायरस का क्या होता है? अल्ट्रा वायरस मींस इट इज इलीगल एंड वॉइड, राइट? सो अल्ट्रा वायरस द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का क्या फीचर है? देन इट बिकम्स एन इलीगल, दैट मींस द रूल बिकम्स इलीगल, द एक्ट बिकम्स इलीगल, द नोटिफिकेशन बिकम्स इलीगल, इलीगल के साथ साथ वॉइड हो जाता है. वॉइड का मतलब है इट इज नॉट एप्लीकेबल, इट इज निल. Clear everybody? So India has a 3-tier structure. One is the union government, state government and local government. All the governments have their powers and duties to levy the taxes as per the government, and this power has been given in accordance with the provision of the constitution. Now, if any of these government comes out with any duties and taxes, and if that duties and taxes are not in conformity with the constitution of India, then that particular act, टैक्स और रूल इज सेट टू बी अल्ट्रा वायरस. और अल्ट्रा वायरस का क्या नेचर होता है? अल्ट्रा वायरस मींस इट इज इलीगल एंड वॉइड. क्लियर एवरीबॉडी? सो वी हैव अंडरस्टूड कि इंडिया में टैक्सेस कौन कौन लगाता है, उनको पावर कहां से आता है, और अगर कोई टैक्स है जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के अगेंस्ट जाके बात करता है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के अगेंस्ट उसके प्रोविजन है, देन इट इज कॉल्ड एज इलीगल एंड वॉइड. क्लियर एवरीबॉडी? नाउ let us understand the various articles in the Constitution of India. Correct? So Indian Constitution has various articles. So under that various articles, we have selected few articles which is applicable as far as this GST is concerned. So we'll go in detail and understand about this Constitution of India में articles क्या होते हैं. So what is that article 265 of Constitution of India says? It prohibits arbitrary collection of tax, right? It says arbitrarily, randomly, nobody can collect the taxes. So Article 265 of the Constitution of India says it that कोई भी आदमी randomly tax collect नहीं कर सकता है. That means this article is restricting, this article is prohibiting arbitrary, randomly collection of taxes. Now, what does it states? It states that no tax shall be levied. कोई भी tax लागू नहीं किया जाएगा और कलेक्टेड या कलेक्ट नहीं किया जाएगा एक्सेप्ट बाय द अथॉरिटी ऑफ द लॉ. जब तक लॉ उसको ऑथराइज नहीं करेगा तब तक कोई भी टैक्स लागू नहीं होगा या तब तक कोई भी टैक्स का कलेक्शन नहीं होगा. Clear everybody? So Article 265, the basic nature is it prohibits the arbitrary collection of tax. Tomorrow nobody can come and say that this is a tax which is applicable. Correct? So उसको अगर applicable होना है then it has to be authorized by the law. Correct? That means no tax shall be levied or collected except by authority of law. The term authority of law means what? अभी जो term authority of law है, what does that term means? Let us understand that. The tax proposed to be levied. Proposed का मतलब जो टैक्स लगने वाला है या जो टैक्स लगाने वाले हैं. The tax proposed to be levied must be within the legislative competence of the legislature imposing that particular tax. So the authority means what? ऐसा नहीं होगा कि जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के पास जो टैक्स है वो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट लगा दे, जो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के पास जिस टैक्स का राइट्स है वो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट लगा दे. करेक्ट? सो दैट मींस अथॉरिटी ऑफ लॉ मींस किसके पास वो राइट है वो लॉ लेके आने का. करेक्ट? सो द अथॉरिटी ऑफ लॉ हियर मींस द टैक्स proposed to be levied must be within the legislative competence. That means मेरे पास वो legislative right होना चाहिए, वो state के पास वो legislative right होना चाहिए, वो center के पास वो legislative right होना चाहिए that this particular tax I can impose. That means state government cannot impose the tax which is under the purview of central government. Central government वो tax नहीं लगा सकता है जिसका holding या जिसका control state के पास है. Clear? So this is what is Article 265 of the Constitution of India states. Correct? That means हर एक जो 3-tier structure है उसके अंदर जिसके पास right है लेवी करने का या collect करने का, that is according to the structure either the union government, state government or local government. We have seen that. Now अगर कोई union government state government का tax लगाता है then he is not authorized by the law. अगर कोई state government union government का law लगाता है, tax levy करता है, then he is not authorized by the law, right? So he does not have the authority to levy that particular law. Clear everybody? So this is what Article 265 states. So Article 265 of the Constitution is a prohibitory article. it prohibits arbitrary collection of the taxes, right? Now that is article 265. That means randomly कोई भी बंदा आके आप पे टैक्स नहीं थोप सकता है. Now article 245 of the Constitution of India, what does it speak? So parliament may make laws for the whole or any part of the territory of India. Now when the parliament speaks about the central government, the union government may make the laws for the whole or any part of the territory of India, right? It can impose कि बॉस ये नॉर्थ ईस्ट में ये सारे लॉज लगेंगे, or it can make the laws for the whole of India, right? When it comes from the union. So parliament, when you talk about parliament, it is a union, it is a central government. So central government may make laws for the whole or any part of the territory of India, and legislature of state may make laws for the whole or any part of the state, right? So union can make the laws for the whole of India or any specific territory, whereas the legislature of state is concerned, they may make laws for the whole or any part of the state, correct? So state can only make laws regarding to the state. जहां तक स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का सवाल है, उनके जो पावर्स हैं वो खाली स्टेट तक ही उनके राइट्स को वो यूज कर सकते हैं, और वहीं पे वो टैक्स लेवी कर सकते हैं और कलेक्ट कर सकते हैं. जहां तक पार्लियामेंट, दैट इज द यूनियन गवर्नमेंट, दैट इज द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की बात है, दे कैन मेक लॉज फॉर द होल ऑफ इंडिया, ऑफ द टेरिटरी ऑफ इंडिया, करेक्ट एवरीबॉडी? एंड no law made by the parliament shall be deemed to be invalid. जो भी पार्लियामेंट, जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट जो लॉ बनाएगा, that shall be deemed to no law that shall not be deemed to be invalid, right? So no law made by the parliament shall be deemed to be invalid on the ground that it would have extra territorial operation. So the union can have the territorial increase, the state cannot have the territorial increase, right? अगर state अपने territory के बाहर जाके कोई law लगाता है, then it is said to be an invalid law or act. But if the parliament has something law which goes beyond its territorial operation also, then it is not deemed to be invalid. That means, right, वो deeming fiction में invalid नहीं होगा, उसको prove करना पड़ेगा कि क्यों invalid है, what is the reason behind it, correct? This is what is article 245 speaks about. It is speaking basically कि अगर पार्लियामेंट कोई एक्ट लगाएगा, then it is applicable to whole of India. State कोई एक्ट लगाएगा, then it is applicable to the only of that particular state. Clear everybody? Now we move on to understand article 246, that is the distribution of power to make law. Now अभी ये distribution जो हो रहा है power का, कि कौन सा state tax लगाएगा, कौन सा यूनियन टैक्स लगाएगा, that is what we have to understand when it comes to article 246, distribution of power to make law. Now parliament has exclusive power to make laws with respect to any of the matters enumerated in list 1 of the 7th schedule, right? So there are various schedules given under the constitution, जहां पे ये बोलता है जो list 1 है in the 7th schedule का, उसके अंदर जो भी लॉज हैं, द पार्लियामेंट, दैट इज द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, हैज द एक्सक्लूसिव पावर. व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय एक्सक्लूसिव पावर? ओनली एंड ओनली सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट कैन लेवी टैक्सेस इन दोस बिहाफ. नाउ पार्लियामेंट एंड सब्जेक्ट टू क्लॉज 1, राइट? सो इफ दैट इज द ओनली जो पार्लियामेंट लाएगा उसको बोलते हैं यूनियन लिस्ट, करेक्ट एवरीबॉडी? राइट. सो 7th शेड्यूल के अंदर लिस्ट 1 के अंदर जो भी एक्ट्स, जो भी लॉज हैं, उसके रिगार्डिंग जो लॉ बना, जो भी मैटर हैं उसके रिगार्डिंग जो लॉ बनाना है, दैट इज एक्सक्लूसिवली विद द पार्लियामेंट, दैट इज द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, एंड दैट इज कॉल्ड एज अ यूनियन लिस्ट. नाउ पार्लियामेंट एंड सब्जेक्ट टू क्लॉज 1, करेक्ट? दैट मींस सब्जेक्ट टू क्लॉज 1 मतलब इसके अलावा द लेजिस्लेचर ऑफ एनी स्टेट, हम अभी स्टेट की बात कर रहे हैं, पार्लियामेंट and the legislature of any state also have the power to make law with respect to any of the matters enumerated in the list 3. लिस्ट 3 के अंदर जो भी आइटम्स हैं, जो भी ट्रांजैक्शंस हैं, जो भी मैटर्स हैं, उसके लिए जो लॉज बनाना है, द पार्लियामेंट सब्जेक्ट टू क्लॉज 1, दैट मीन जो क्लॉज 1 में आ गए वो तो सिर्फ पार्लियामेंट के पास है, जो क्लॉज 3 जो लिस्ट 3 के अंदर है, दैट इज पार्लियामेंट एज वेल एज द स्टेट कैन लेवी the laws in respect of the matters enumerated in list 3 of the 7th schedule. This list is called as the concurrent list. Now, second, the parliament has power to make laws with respect to any matters for any part of the territory of India not included in a state. ऐसा कोई अगर territory है which is not included in a state, then the parliament has power to make laws with respect to any matters for any part of the territory of India not included in a state, notwithstanding that such matter is a matter enumerated in the state list, right? मतलब अगर वो state list में नहीं होएगा, then also the central government can make the laws for that particular transaction, correct? So what is the seventh schedule of Article 246 states? Let us understand the various union list के अंदर क्या क्या आता है, now state list के अंदर क्या क्या आता है, and concurrent list के अंदर क्या क्या आता है. So when we talk about the union list, we can see various entry numbers and item numbers. So entry number 82 speaks about the income tax. Entry number 83 speaks about the custom duty. Entry number 84 speaks about the excise duty. Entry number 92A speaks about the central sales tax. Entry number 97 speaks about any other matters not listed in list 2 and list 3. करेक्ट. तो पार्लियामेंट ने क्या क्या रखा अपने पास में, इनकम टैक्स रख लिया, कस्टम्स ड्यूटी रख लिया, एक्साइज ड्यूटी रख लिया, सेंट्रल सेल्स टैक्स रख लिया, और एनी अदर मैटर नॉट एन्यूमरेटेड इन द लिस्ट 2 एंड लिस्ट 3. क्लियर है? सो व्हाट आर द एंट्रीज व्हिच द यूनियन लिस्ट 1 इंक्लूड्स, जहां पे सिर्फ पार्लियामेंट हैव द एक्सक्लूसिव राइट इज इनकम टैक्सेस, एंट्री नंबर 82, customs duty, entry number 83, excise duty, entry number 84, central sales tax, entry number 92A. Now, as far as the any other matters not enumerated in list 2 and list 3, when we read list 2 and list 3, उसके अलावा कोई अगर मैटर है, then that particular list entry is 97, and on that particular activity, the center has the power to levy the taxes. I hope this is clear to everybody. Now, let us see state list number 2, that is state legislature, right? So what is the state legislature? Entry number 46, 51, 54, 62. So these are the entry numbers which are mentioned in the state list 2, which has only the states can impose the taxes, right? So 46, that is taxes on agriculture income. SCD on alcohol, opium and narcotics, special excise duty on alcohol, opium and narcotics. VAT, section 54, section 62, taxes on luxuries, including taxes on entertainment, amusement, betting and gambling, right? So these were the power which is available with the state government, right? Now, what is a concurrent list? Anything related to common criminal law and anything related to stamp duties, right? So these are the concurrent lists. These concurrent lists, the levy of the taxes can be both by the parliament as well as the state. I hope this is clear to everybody. That means अगर list 1 के अंदर article 246 के list 1 के अंदर जो भी transactions हैं उसके regarding जो law बनाना है, that will be made by the parliament. List number 2 के अंदर of article 246 जो भी transactions है उसके regarding जो law बनाना है state government को बनाना है, that is called a state list 2. Right, and the third list is called the concurrent list, जहाँ पे both state and central government will collaborate and bring the law for that particular area. Clear everybody? So this is what we have as far as the article number 246 is concerned. So let us quickly recap what we have understood till now, that India has a 3-tier federal structure. We have seen union government, state government and central local government. All the government have their power to levy the duties and taxes which are distributed among these 3 tiers of the government in accordance with the provision of constitution. The constitution gives them the power to levy the taxes, right? So any of the taxes which these 3 body of the government levies, and if they're against the constitution, not in conformity with the constitution, it is called ultra vires the constitution. And when it is called as ultra vires the constitution, it is illegal and void. Clear everybody? That is, India has a 3-tier federal structure. Now, Article 265 of the Constitution of India, what does it state? Article 265 states that it is a prohibitory clause and it prohibits arbitrarily collection of any tax. कोई भी बंदा आके randomly tax collect नहीं कर सकता है, right? It states what? No tax shall be levied. कोई भी बंदा tax levy नहीं कर सकता है और collected ना ही वो collect कर सकता है except by the authority of law. जिसके पास authority है लॉ बनाने का, वही बंदा लॉ लगा सकता है. नाउ ये अथॉरिटी किसके पास कौन सा है, वो कहां पे दिया है? दैट इज अगेन मेंशन्ड इन आर्टिकल नंबर 245, आर्टिकल नंबर 246, राइट? सो 265 के अंदर ये राइट दिया गया है कि ओनली द पर्सन हु हैव ऑथराइज्ड or who have authority to make the law regarding this particular transaction can only make the particular law, right? Now, Article 245, we have understood that the Parliament may make laws for the whole of India or any part of the territory of India which is not forming part of the state, and legislature of state may make the laws for the whole or any part of that particular state, right? So state law can make the law for the state, Parliament can make the law for the whole of India as a whole or certain territory which are not forming part of the state. Now, no law made by the Parliament shall be deemed to be invalid on the ground that it would have extraterritorial operation, right? So, अगर वो कोई states है, कोई जो ऐसे places हैं which is not forming part of any state, on that basis the law which has been made cannot be said to be invalid, correct? Now, हमने यहाँ पे 2465 के अंदर देखा था that only the person who have the authority or only the government who have the authority to make law can only make law regarding to that particular transaction. Now, ये authority कहाँ पे दिया हुआ है? This authority has been issued in Article 246, distribution of power to make law. Correct. So this particular Article 246 have certain lists enumerated in the 7th schedule, which are called, which have certain transactions mentioned into that, certain matters mentioned into that, and based upon that matters, it is classified into union list or a state list or a concurrent list, right? Union list का मतलब वो हो गया that article that the matters mentioned in the list number 1 of the 7th schedule is called as union list. Based on that, any of the matters enumerated in the list 1 in the 7th schedule, only and only the state, the union, the central government can levy taxes. Now, anything mentioned in list number 2, then the state government can levy the taxes. Anything mentioned in list number 3, then it is a combination concurrent list, which is a combination of both union and state who can levy the taxes, correct? So what are the items included in union list number 1? Let us see the items which are there for the union list. That is Parliament only, income taxes, custom duty, excise duty, central sales tax, any other matters not enumerated in list number 2 and 3, right? So it is an open entry which is mentioned as far as this list is concerned. So income tax, customs duty, excise duty, CST, any other matters not interested in the list 2 and list 3. Now what is a state legislature? State list, basically the state government can levy taxes on agriculture income if they wish to, SCD on alcoholic, opium and narcotics, VAT, value added tax, and taxes on luxuries including taxes on entertainment, amusement, betting and lotteries. That is what is mentioned as far as article number 246 state list number 2 is concerned, right? So we have seen article 246. Under that 7th schedule, we have seen list number 1, that is union list, list number 2, that is state list, and the concurrent list, which is called as list number 3, which is talking about the criminal laws and the stamp duties. I hope this is clear to everybody. Clear है? Now let us move back and understand that what are the other scenarios. तो अभी ये समझ रहे हैं कि constitution जो है, it is restricting that anybody cannot have the authority to impose law. Then article 265 के अंदर restriction आ गया. Then article 246 बोलता है कि किसके पास कौन सा authority law लगाने का. Article 245 क्या बोलता है कि parliament कहाँ पे law लगा सकता है, state कहाँ पे law लगा सकता है. Clear है? Then we have. Now let us understand article number 254. What does article 254 explains us and how does now GST come into play? अभी यहाँ तक हमको ये समझ में आ गया कि कोई भी लॉ रैंडमली नहीं आ सकता, उसको कोई ना कोई लिस्ट में होना पड़ेगा. अभी हमने ये भी देख लिया कि यूनियन लिस्ट नंबर 1, 2 and 3 इसमें भी जीएसटी का नामो निशान नहीं है, राइट? वी हैव आल्सो सीन दैट द पार्लियामेंट कैन मेक लॉ फॉर द होल ऑफ इंडिया एज अ होल and state can make law only for the state. So अभी ये जो चीज है GST वाला, how can that come into picture if these are the articles which are present in the Constitution of India? That is article number 265, article number 245 and article number 246, correct? Now we see article number 254 which deals with the effect of inconsistency. If there's any inconsistency between what? The law of parliament and the law of state, right? So whatever is the effect, if there's any effect between these inconsistencies there in between these particular laws, then article 254 gives the remedy depending upon the effect, right? So let us not get in, that is not much detail required now. So because the constitution does not allow the levy of GST, कौन लगाएगा GST? Because here what is happening in GST, the state as well as the center both are levying the GST simultaneously, right? कहीं भी हमको ये नहीं देखा कि simultaneously they can levy the taxes, because article number 265 states that it can levy the taxes based upon the union, state and local government, correct? So nowhere it has been stated that these particular any of the law can be levied simultaneously by both the governments, right? So hence there was an amendment in the constitution. That means introduction to of GST required amendment in the constitution, right? Because हमने ये समझा था कि GST लगाने के लिए both the center and the state had to levy the taxes simultaneously. But यहाँ कहीं भी article में it is not mentioned that the amendment is in the दोनों जन साथ में tax levy कर सकते हैं, correct? So as to enable what they wanted to amend, amendment was required so as to enable इंटीग्रेशन ऑफ सेंट्रल एक्साइज टैक्स. कहीं भी आर्टिकल के अंदर ये भी नहीं लिखा है कि बोथ द टैक्सेस कैन बी मर्ज, राइट? Additional duties of custom, state VAT, and certain state specific taxes and service tax, correct? So as to enable the amendment, right, that means integration of central excise duty, additional duties of customs, state VAT, service tax, and any of the specific state taxes into a comprehensive GST. This amendment was required in the constitution and to empower both the center and the state to levy and collect the taxes simultaneously. Clear everybody? So why an amendment was needed? हमने ये सारे articles देख लिए जहां पे restriction है that no two law can be merged together when it comes to state and the central level. Also, both the center and the state cannot levy the taxes at one point of time, correct? So to get that thing invoked into the constitution, an amendment was required in the constitution so that the GST can be introduced. Correct, everybody? So why was amendment required? So as to enable integration. Integration means combining of the central excise duty, additional duties of custom, state VAT, central state specific taxes and service taxes into a comprehensive GST. एक GST इकट्ठा करना है जहां पे मैं एक्साइज को भी क्लब कर रहा हूं, कस्टम्स को भी क्लब कर रहा हूं, स्टेट में वैट जो लग रहा है उसको भी क्लब कर रहा हूं, एंड सर्टेन सर्विस टैक्सेस को भी क्लब कर रहा हूं, एंड जो स्टेट में छोटे छोटे टैक्सेस हैं उनको भी क्लब कर रहा हूं, राइट? तो ऐसा कोई प्रावधान, ऐसा कोई प्रोविजन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के अंदर नहीं था. फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर रीजन द अमेंडमेंट वाज रिक्वायर्ड. एंड ऑल्सो वी हैव सीन दैट कि जब GST आया, देन बोथ द सेंटर एंड द स्टेट had the right to levy and collect the taxes simultaneously. और ये भी कहीं भी provisions article में नहीं है, then both the government can levy and collect the tax simultaneously. Clear? So for that particular purpose, an amendment in the constitution was required, and article 246 does not provide for making taxation laws together by center and state, right? So article 246 में भी क्या पढ़ा था हमने कि यूनियन लिस्ट होगा तो यूनियन लिस्ट पे काम करेगा, स्टेट लिस्ट होगा तो स्टेट लिस्ट पे काम करेगा, एंड कॉन्करेंट लिस्ट वो होगा जहां पे पार्लियामेंट काम करेगा. द लेजिस्लेचर ऑफ एनी स्टेट आल्सो हैव पावर टू मेक द लॉ. तो उसके अंदर ऐसा है, कॉन्करेंट लिस्ट के अंदर आइदर द स्टेट विल लेवी द टैक्स और द सेंटर विल लेवी द टैक्स, राइट? सो दीज वर द थ्री ब्रेकअप्स व्हिच हैज बीन गिवन इन द आर्टिकल 246. सो आर्टिकल 246 डज नॉट provide for making taxation laws together by center and state, right? Hence, jab we have to implement GST, we have seen that GST is levied and collected both by the center and the state, right? Hence, the Constitution of India had to be amendment and article 246 has to be introduced, right? तो जब ये constitution amendment नहीं हुआ तब तक GST नहीं आ सका, correct? So this whole constitution had to be amendment, and this article 246 के बाद एक 246A को introduce किया गया in order to empower the state and the center to levy and collect the GST simultaneously. Correct, everybody? Because 246 is giving the distribution of the power of making laws. Correct? कौन सा लॉ कौन बना सकता है? नाउ व्हेन इट कम्स टू दिस पर्टिकुलर थिंग, यहाँ पे कहीं भी नहीं लिखा दैट साइमल्टेनियसली बोथ द गवर्नमेंट दैट इज सेंट्रल एंड द स्टेट कैन मेक द लॉ. सो वो पावर को इन्वोक करने के लिए आर्टिकल 246A को डाला गया, विच वाज एन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट to empower both the center and the state to levy and collect the GST simultaneously. I hope this is clear to everybody कि constitutional amendment की requirement क्यों आई, right? And we have also seen that what are the various provisions of constitution which is restricting that anybody cannot randomly invoke the taxation. Correct, everybody? Now, let us go more in detail कि constitutional amendment तो आ गया. Now, what is the next thing which is required, right? So, constitutional amendment क्यों requirement हुआ ये हम समझ गए. Now, moving further, that Article 246 जो constitutional amendment किया, power to make the law with respect to GST only. Now, let us understand this. Notwithstanding anything contained in Article 246 and 254, right? So 246 और 254 को breach नहीं करते हुए, correct? So notwithstanding anything contained in Article 246 and 254, that means I am not concerned with Article 246. I am not concerned with Article 254. Why? What does 246 states? 246 states the distribution power. 254 states the inconsistency between the state and center. तो दोनों चीज को avoid कर दिया गया. Parliament and subject to clause 2. तो clause 1 stated कि हम पहले 246 आर्टिकल को भूल जाएं, 254 आर्टिकल को भूल जाएं when we are reading this 246A, right? So 246A जब हम read कर रहे हैं तो sub article 1 states notwithstanding anything contained in article 246 and 254. What is 246? Distribution of power. What is 254? If there's any inconsistency between the state and the center, then it is a dispute resolution mechanism, right? So Parliament, right, notwithstanding anything contained in Article 246 and 254, the Parliament, that is a union, and subject to clause 2, the legislature of every state have the power. That means Parliament have the power, and subject to clause 2, which we'll be reading here, and the state legislature also has the power to make laws with respect to goods and services tax imposed by the union or by such state. Correct? That means for intrastate supply, Parliament and legislature both combined can make the laws. Correct, everybody? So what does Article 246 states is, notwithstanding the Article 246 as well as Article 254, 246 is the power जहां पे मैं distinguish कर रहा हूं कि state government कौन सा tax लगा सकता है, central government कौन सा tax लगा सकता है. Clear? Then Article 254 is basically an dispute resolution mechanism. So we are not going to read Article 246 and Article 254 whenever we are reading the article number 246. The Parliament and the state legislature of every state, correct? The Parliament as well as the state legislature of every state, but subject to clause 2, have the power to make the laws with respect to GST, with respect to GST. Make sure this is only and only with respect to GST, and no other law is to be read while you're reading this Article 246A. That means you cannot use this Article 246A for any other purposes other than GST, right? So subject to clause 2, have the power to make laws with respect to goods and services tax imposed by the union or by such state, that is for intrastate supply. Intrastate means what? From one state to another, correct? That is for intrastate supply, Parliament and legislature both combine and make the law, right? Parliament has exclusive power to make laws with respect to goods and service taxes where the supply of goods or services or both takes place in the course of interstate trade or commerce. That is, in case of interstate supply, the Parliament exclusively will make the law. Clear, everybody? That means जब intrastate supply होगा, that means from one city in a state to another city in a state, then both the Parliament and the center will be levying the taxes. But what does clause 2 says is, the clause 2 states whenever it is interstate supply, correct? Whenever it is from one state to another supply, in that particular scenario, only and only the Parliament will have the power to levy the taxes, correct? So what does clause 2 of Article 246A states? That Parliament has the exclusive power to make laws with respect to goods and service taxes where the supply of goods or of services or both takes place in the course of interstate trade or commerce. That is, in case of interstate supply, Parliament exclusively make law, correct? So that's why we have seen that the Parliament has introduced the bills for CGST, then it has introduced the bills for UTGST, then it has been introduced the bill for IGST, correct? So the parliament has done it for the interstate supply only, correct? The provision of this article shall, in respect of goods and service tax referred to in Article 279A5, take effect from the recommended date recommended by the GST Council. So 279A के अंदर जो date recommend की गई है, on that day itself, this provision of Article 246A will become applicable. Correct, everybody? Now, let us see when does this 279A clause 5 have this day, this thing. So before this, we'll go to the other articles also. Now, Article 269A, levy and collection of GST in the course of interstate trade or commerce, correct? So what is this levy and collection in course of interstate trade and commerce? Let us understand this. So Article 269A states that goods and service taxes on supplies in the course of interstate trade or commerce shall be levied and collected by the government of India, and such tax shall be apportioned between the union and the state, correct? That means जब भी ये लेवी एंड कलेक्शन की बात आएगी, लेवी मतलब लगाना और कलेक्शन मतलब कलेक्ट करना, राइट? तो गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स के जो सप्लाईज होंगे, इंटरस्टेट ट्रेड और कॉमर्स जो होगा, इट शैल बी लेविड एंड सप्लाइड कलेक्टेड बाय द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, दैट इज बाय द यूनियन, एंड सच टैक्स, बिकॉज हमने देखा था यहाँ पे कि इन केस ऑफ इंटरस्टेट सप्लाई इट इज ओनली द पार्लियामेंट हु कैन लेवी द टैक्सेस, करेक्ट? सो यहाँ पे 269A क्या बोलता है, that in case of interstate supply the levy and collection will be by the government of India, that is by the Union of India, and such tax shall be apportioned between the union and the states, correct? वो कौन apportion कर रहा है? The union and the state के बीच में bifurcate हो जाएगा in the manner as may be provided by the parliament by law on the recommendation of the Goods and Service Tax Council, correct? वो कौन से basis पे proportionately distribute करना है, that will be mentioned by the GST Council, and accordingly it will be distributed. That is, IGST is nothing but the combination of CGST and UTGST or SGST, correct? So IGST is basically just a packaging of both the laws, that is CGST and SGST or CGST and UTGST, right? So suppose if this particular transaction has CGST and SGST, जब मैं इसको combine कर देता हूँ, it is called as IGST, correct? So when I'm splitting this thing, it is again going to be called as CGST and UTGST. We'll understand this more in details once we go in detail about the various taxes which is leviable, right? So CGST is a revenue of central, right? So whatever is the CGST component of the IGST also, it is the revenue of center, correct? That is the parliament, correct? So whenever we have CGST, it is the revenue of the central, of the Delhi, of the union, correct? And SGST, that is the place of supply, consumption is a state's revenue. जहां पे ये consume हो रहा है goods and services, that state will become the place of supply, and accordingly that place, that state will be the state where the revenue will be generated. Clear? For the purpose of this clause, supply of goods or services or both in the course of imports into the territory of India shall be deemed. जो भी imports होगा territory of India के अंदर, that will be deemed to be the supply of goods or services or both in the course of interstate trade or commerce, right? So Article 269A specifically states that in case of imports of goods and services, it is going to be deemed that those transactions are going to be considered as interstate supply and not an intrastate supply. To give you an example here, that suppose I'm importing from say Spain and I'm importing in the Bombay dockyard, Bombay naval port, no, Bombay port, correct? Now, if I want to supply, if my office is in Bombay port and if I want to sell that goods same into the Bombay itself to my client, then it is not going to be considered as intrastate supply. It is going to be considered as interstate supply, to be deeming to be called as interstate supply only. So IGST would be levied. Clear, everybody? So any of the import transaction, that will be called as your interstate transaction, that will be deemed to be called as interstate transaction, and IGST would be levied. Correct, everybody? Now, what we have seen in the sub clause 1 is that whatever is the IGST component which is collected by the center in case of interstate, that means from one state to another, if that is collected, then the revenue of the splitting of this particular IGST is going to be done in the appropriation of this particular IGST will be done in the manner as prescribed by the parliament. तो जो भी ये मैं IGST कलेक्ट करूंगा तो स्टेट को कितना रेवेन्यू जाना है, सेंटर को कितना रेवेन्यू जाना है, that will be done based on the recommendation by the council. जो council recommend करेगा, on that basis that particular component will go. So IGST is nothing but a packaging जहां पे मैं CGST को ला रहा हूं, SGST को ला रहा हूं, उन दोनों को मर्ज कर रहा हूं. तो जो CGST वाला पोर्शन है that is of the central government और जो SGST है that is the place of supply जहां पे goods or service actually consume हो रहा है, that state will get the revenue as far as the SGST is concerned, right? Also, when you're importing certain goods, it is deemed that this particular transaction is going to be considered as interstate supply and not intrastate supply. Clear? So whenever you're importing the goods, it is an interstate supply and IGST will be applicable. Now, the amount so apportioned to state under clause 1. तो जो मैं यहाँ पे apportionment कर रहा हूँ, right, as per this recommendation of council, the amount so apportioned to the state under clause 1 shall not form part of the consolidated fund of India. Only CGST will form part of the consolidated fund of India. तो जो part मुझे apportion करना है वो consolidated fund of India का part नहीं बनेगा. That will not be the part of revenue. That will form part of the revenue of the state and not of the center. Correct? Where an amount collected as tax levied under clause 1, जब मैंने वो IGST collect किया है, has been used for payment of taxes levied by a state under article number 246A. Now, what was 246A is basically the GST, correct? Now, where an amount collected as tax levied under clause number 1 has been used for the payment of tax levied by the state under article 246A. That means जो IGST collect कर लिया है मैंने, if that is used, जो मैंने IGST collect किया है, if that has been used for payment of tax levied by a state, if that has been used for making the state level ka liability under article 246A, this we'll see more in detail once we do with an example. So just giving a brief idea कैसे utilize होने वाला है taxes, right? So where an amount collected as tax levied under clause 1, जहाँ clause 1 के अंदर हम क्या collect कर रहे हैं, IGST collect कर रहे हैं. तो जो IGST में state को जो पैसा मिलने वाला है, if that IGST has been used for making the payment of my state level liabilities, for my SGST liability, such amount shall not form part of the consolidated fund of India, and IGST used, it is for IGST used for payment of SGST. Now, where an amount collected as tax levied by the state, where an amount collected as tax levied by a state under article 246, तो जो मैंने स्टेट में कलेक्ट किया है CGST SGST के अंदर अंडर आर्टिकल 246A, दैट मींस अंडर द GST, has been used for payment of taxes under the clause 1, right? If मैं SGST को यूज करता हूँ IGST का पेमेंट करने के लिए, then such amount shall not form part of the consolidated fund of the state, and it is basically an SGST used for payment of IGST. Clear, everybody? This will go more in detail once we understand the implications of utilization of the credit, right? So आज तो हम खाली basics कर रहे हैं, which will give you a brief idea कि कैसे GST invoke किया गया. Now, Parliament may by law formulate the principles of determining what it will determine the place of supply and when a supply of goods or services or both takes place in the course of interstate trade or commerce. तो पार्लियामेंट के पास एक फॉर्मूला है में बाय लॉ फॉर्मुलेट द प्रिंसिपल्स कि ये डिटरमाइन कैसे करना है कि ये प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई क्या होने वाला है, कहां पे ये प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई कंसीडर किया जाएगा. करेक्ट? बिकॉज बेस्ड ऑन द प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई वी कैन आइडेंटिफाई कहां गुड्स कंज्यूम हुआ है, और जहां पे गुड्स कंज्यूम होगा, बिकॉज वी नो दैट जीएसटी इज डेस्टिनेशन बेस्ड टैक्स, जहां पे ये गुड्स कंज्यूम होगा, दैट स्टेट इज गोइंग टू बी गेटिंग द रेवेन्यू एज फार एज दिस पर्टिकुलर ट्रांजैक्शन इज कंसर्न. सो हु हैज द पावर? द पार्लियामेंट, that is a union, that is a central government, may by law formulate the principles for determining the place of supply and when a supply of goods or of services or both takes place in the course of interstate trade or commerce, right? So they can define when the how to identify the place of supply. Also, they can define that which particular transaction will be classified as interstate trade or commerce, like how they have told that import will always be deemed to be an interstate trade or supply, correct? Interstate transaction, right? So simple है कि जब goods and service tax का collection IGST होगा, then IGST को distribute किया जाएगा state का, state को revenue मिल जाएगा, and it will form part of the state fund, and जो center का revenue that will form part of the center's consolidated fund, correct? जब मैं ये IGST collected, if I am going to utilize it, जब मैं इसको use करने वाला हूँ state का liability pay करने के लिए, then it will not form part of my consolidated fund of India. और जब मैं स्टेट में कुछ टैक्स कलेक्ट कर रहा हूं, एंड इफ आई एम यूटिलाइजिंग इट फॉर द पेमेंट ऑफ माय आईजीएसटी लायबिलिटी, देन आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू make it a part of the consolidated fund of the state, correct? So this is what is given, so don't get lost in this. This is just being an exercising brainstorming exercises जहां पे बहुत सारी चीजें आ रही है, but once you go chapter wise chapter and then we'll understand कि ये कहां से पिकअप हो रहा है, बिकॉज जब तक हम कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का प्रोविजंस नहीं समझेंगे, इट विल बी वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर अस टू अंडरस्टैंड एंड रिलेट कॉन्सेप्चुअली कि ये कहां से क्या चीज को पिक किया जा रहा है, करेक्ट? सो जब तक हम एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन समझ जाएंगे तो हमको कॉन्सेप्ट लेवल पे समझ में आ जाएगा कि बॉस ये चीज यहां से इस तरह से पिक की गई, ये चीज यहां से इस तरह से पिक की गई, करेक्ट? सो दैट इज व्हाई इट इज अ बिल्डिंग बेस फॉर अस, राइट? Now, the parliament may also formulate the principles for determining the place of supply and when a supply of goods or of services or both takes place in the course of interstate trade or commerce. Clear, everybody? Now, this is what is given in Article 269A, levy and collection of GST in course of interstate trade and commerce. Correct? Now, what does Article 270 explains us, right? Article 270 क्या explain करता है? Article 270, it's a distribution of GST between the center and the state. Now 270 के अंदर distribution है GST का center and state के अंदर. So Article 270 is amended to provide for distribution of GST between the center and the states by order of the president after considering recommendation from the Financial Commission. This applies for those tax amounts apportioned or payable by the central government for taxes levied by it under Article 246A1 and 2, right? 246A1 and 2 हमने देखा था. 246A1 that is the interstate, and 246A1 is basically the intrastate within the state, and 246A2 is within the interstate, that is one state to another, right? So ये क्या बोलता है? This applies for those tax amount apportioned or payable to the central government for taxes levied by it under Article 246A1 and 2, जो portion tax का central government को जाने वाला है, right? And also clause 1 of 269A1. 269A1 के अंदर क्या बोलता है कि interstate में जो भी collection होगा, which is IGST, जो CGST portion होगा वो center को जाने वाला है, और जो SGST होगा that is going to go to the place of supply जहां पे goods consume होने वाला, right? So Article 270 is the amendment to provide for distribution of GST. जो GST collect होगा उसको distribute कैसे करेंगे between the center and the states by order of the parliament, president, right? So order of the president आएगा after considering the recommendation of the finance commission, right? This is what is given in Article 270, that is distribution of GST, right? यहाँ पे 246A was basically levy, 269A was basically collection and collection होगा and setting off of the utilization of the credit होगा. 270 is basically distribution of GST, of the GST collected. Clear, everybody? Now we move on to Article 368. What does Article 368 explain us? Now Article 368 has been amended to include Article 279A. ये जो 279 है, Article 279A, that is GST Council. So Article 368 जो है उसको amend किया गया है to include Article 279A also within its purview, right? So GST Council also is included in the purview of Article 268. Consequently, at least 2/3 of the majority in each house of parliament, that is the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, and ratification by at least half of the states is specially required to make any amendment in Article 279A relating to GST Council. Correct? So जो भी GST Council suggestion देगा उसको अगर approve करना है then it should be approved by 2/3 of the majority in each house of the parliament. तो जो भी proposal लेके आएगा that proposal को अगर amendment के रूप में लेके आना है they have to bring it in the constitutional amendment of the law, then this has to be passed by at least 2/3 of the majority in each house of the parliament. जो भी each house of the parliament के अंदर members हैं, right, that is the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, उसमें से 2/3 लोग have to accept that, has to be in favor of that particular amendment, and ratification by at least half of the state, right, और उसके अंदर भी आधे से ज्यादा states का involvement होना चाहिए, especially requiring to make any amendment as specified by Article 279, that is the GST Council, which we'll be seeing shortly. Correct, everybody? Now we move on to Article 366, sub Article 12A. Goods and service tax means, right? So here it comes, the goods and service tax means, what does it mean? Any tax on supply of goods or services or both, except taxes on the supply of alcoholic liquor for human consumption, right? So there's an exception by constitution itself, which is removing the alcoholic liquor for human consumption from the purview of GST itself. So Article 366 12A, right? Very important. This you can quote it. This can be one of the killer if you will be able to quote it. Article 366 of 12, Article 366 12A is basically defining the goods and service tax. It means any tax on supply of goods or services or both, exception, that means they have constitutionally removed the supply of alcohol liquor for human consumption, excluded from the levy of because of the constitutional exclusion. So exclusively the article for alcohol for human consumption has been excluded by the Article 366 12A, that is by the constitutional amendment. Clear, everybody? Now Article 279A, Goods and Service Tax Council. Very important. We need to understand this now. So let me just close all these tabs which are open so that you guys can concentrate completely on this particular. Right. So Article 279A, that is the Goods and Services Council, correct? So let us understand this Article 279A, which explains us about the Goods and Service Tax Council. Now, so the President of India shall, within 60 days from the first day of the commencement of the Constitution, that is 101st Amendment Act, जहाँ पे amendment करके GST को invoke किया गया, by order constitute a council, right? He has to constitute a council. The President have to constitute a council to be called as GST Council, and it has to be done within how many days? 60 days. So now this is not relevant as already the GST Council has been formed. The Goods and Service Tax Council shall consist of the following members. Who shall be the members? Very important to note. The Union Finance Minister is the chairperson of the GST Council. Union Minister of States in charge of revenue or finance, they become the member. That means the Union Minister of India will become the chairperson. Union Minister of State in charge of revenue and finance will become the member. The Finance Minister will become the chairperson. Union Minister of State, तो state के जो revenue और finance के in charge है, they will become the member. And the Minister in charge of finance or taxation or any other minister nominated by each such state government will also form part of the this GST Council, correct? So the Union Finance Minister तो होंगे that he is his chairperson. Then Union Minister of State in charge of revenue or finance, they will become the member. And other than that, the ministers in charge of finance or taxation or any other minister nominated by each such state government can also become part of the GST Council, correct? तो अभी ये समझ लिया कि जीएसटी काउंसिल का कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन क्या होगा. इट इज हेडेड, दैट इज द चेयरपर्सन इज द फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर. करेक्ट. द मेंबर्स ऑफ द जीएसटी काउंसिल जो यहाँ पे मेंशन है क्लॉज बी और क्लॉज सी के अंदर, referred to in clause C of clause 2. So specifically we are talking about the persons who are nominated by the state, correct, of clause 2 shall as soon as may be choose one amongst themselves to be the vice chairperson of the council for such period as they may decide, correct. So whoever is a member who is basically from the finance or taxation and nominated by the state, they have to as soon as may be choose one amongst themselves. So whoever is in the third category, they will have to choose one amongst themselves as the vice chairperson of the council for such periods as may be decided, as they may decide themselves, right. The GST council shall make recommendation to the union and the states, right. So जो ये GST council बनेगा, they will recommend both to the union as well as to the state about the following thing. What recommendations they will be giving? Let us see into this within detail now. So the GST council shall make the recommendation to the union and the states on the taxes, cess and surcharges levied by the union. जो taxes हैं, cess हैं, surcharge हैं, levied by the union, levied by the central government, the state government and the local bodies which may be subsumed in the goods and service tax. तो सबसे पहला काम कंसोलिडेशन का है. तो जीएसटी काउंसिल जो है एक रिकमेंडेशन देगा टू द यूनियन एंड द स्टेट्स फॉर द कंसोलिडेशन ऑफ द वेरियस टैक्सेस, वेरियस सेस एंड सरचार्जेस which are either levied by the union or levied by the state or levied by the local bodies which can come together in the platform of GST. The goods, it will also give recommendation on the goods and services that may be subjected to or exempted from goods and service tax. तो किसको गुड जीएसटी के परव्यू के अंदर लाना है, किसको exempt करना है, that recommendation also will be given by the GST council. Then the model GST law, principles of levy, apportionment of GST levied on supplies in course of interstate trade or commerce, Article 269A, and the principle that governs the place of supply, correct. So 269A के अंदर जो हमने देखा था, that is also is basically ये आर्टिकल ये जीएसटी काउंसिल ही रिकमेंडेशन करेगा कि किस तरीके से अपॉर्शनमेंट करना है the levies of supplies in the course of interstate trade or commerce and articles the principles that govern the place of supply. किस तरीके से place of supply को define करना है, correct. The threshold limit of turnover below which the goods and services may be exempted from GST, that also will be recommended by the GST council, correct. तो GST council क्या करने वाला है, पहला तो consolidation करने वाला है सारे taxes का. Then it can also be that goods and services may be subject to exempt. कौन से गुड्स को जीएसटी के अंदर लाना है, कौन से सर्विसेज को जीएसटी के अंदर लाना है, किसको बाहर लेके जाना है, दैट रिकमेंडेशन आल्सो विल बी गिवन बाय द जीएसटी काउंसिल. सिमिलरली द मॉडल जीएसटी लॉ, द प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ लेवी, जो लेवी करना है, अपॉर्शनमेंट ऑफ जीएसटी लेवी, जो लेवी किया है उसका अपॉर्शनमेंट कैसे करना है सेंटर और स्टेट के बीच में, under Article 269A, and the principles that govern the place of supply, because place of supply से हम ये identify कर पाएंगे कि कौन से state का revenue होने वाला है. So that recommendation, these principles recommendation also will be given by this particular GST council. The threshold limit of turnover below which the goods service taxes may be exempted from goods and service tax is also given under this particular article by the GST council. The rates including floor rates with bands of goods and service taxes, right. कितना मिनिमम फ्लोर रेट होगा और कौन से गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज इसके अंदर आएंगे, दैट आल्सो विल बी गिवन बाय द जीएसटी काउंसिल. एनी स्पेशल रेट और रेट्स फॉर अ स्पेसिफाइड पीरियड टू रेज एडिशनल रिसोर्सेज ड्यूरिंग एनी नेचुरल कैलामिटी और डिजास्टर. कोई नेचुरल कैलामिटी और डिजास्टर आया, सो दे कैन पुट एक्स्ट्रा rate of taxes specifically to collect the revenue, correct. Now, special provision with respect to the state of Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Jammu and Kashmir, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim, Tripura, Himachal Pradesh, and Uttarakhand. They can launch special provisions with respect to the states of Arunachal Pradesh, which is northeast, Assam, northeast, Jammu and Kashmir, northern part, Manipur, northeast, Meghalaya, northeast, मिजोरम नॉर्थ ईस्ट, नागालैंड नॉर्थ ईस्ट, सिक्किम नॉर्थ ईस्ट, त्रिपुरा नॉर्थ ईस्ट एंड सेंटर में सेंटर नॉर्थ हिमाचल प्रदेश एंड उत्तराखंड. करेक्ट. So somewhere in the northern pieces where there are a lot of mountains and the conveyance is not so easy, so they can have a special provision for those states. Any other matter relating to the goods and service taxes as the council may decide. This also can be done by the GST council. The GST council shall recommend date on which GST be levied on the petroleum crude, high speed diesel, motor spirit commonly known as petrol, natural gas and aviation turbine fuel. So these are the 5 petroleum products on which GST is not levied till date. Correct. वो GST को कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली एग्जेम्प्ट नहीं किया गया है, बट इसका डेट अभी तक नोटिफाई नहीं किया गया है फ्रॉम विच डेट this particular goods will be levied to GST, right? That means which are the goods? Petroleum, crude, high speed diesel, motor spirit, natural gas and aviation turbine fuel. This will be going more in detail once we'll be doing the section 7, that is the GST levy. While discharging the functions conferred by this article, ये जो article है 279A, while discharging the functions mentioned in this article, the Goods and Service Tax Council shall be guided by the need of harmonized structure of goods. तो हम बोलते हैं HSN codes, right? Because कौन सा goods किसकी कैटेगरी के अंदर आएगा, कितना GST रेट लगने वाला है, and what will going to be the customs है तो all over globally एक customs का coding होता है, that is called as HSN, that is called as harmonized. It is collective harmony, everywhere it is same, harmonized structure of goods and service tax, and for the development of harmonized national market for goods and services, right? So HSN के basis पे अभी goods classify होता है. It is going to be classified as harmonized system कि सारा का सारा चीज एक level पे आ गया है, level playing field हो गया है. It is a transparent business environment which you are entering into. 1/2 of the total number of the members of GST Council shall constitute the quorum at its meeting. जो भी जितने members appoint होंगे उसमें से half should be present to constitute the quorum at the meeting. Without that number, none of the decisions making in the council will be accepted. The GST council shall determine the procedure in the performance of its function, right? जो भी उनको functions को perform करना है उसके लिए जो जो procedure लगेंगे, that also will be determined by the GST council. Every decision of the Goods and Service Tax Council shall be taken at the meeting, right? जो भी decision होगा by a majority of not less than 3/4 of the weighted votes of the member present and voting in accordance with the following principle, right? तो voting कैसे होगा? Let us understand that. The vote of the central government shall have the weightage of 1/3 of the total votes cast, correct? And the votes of all the state government taken together shall have the weightage of 2/3 of the total votes cast in the meeting. So जो भी state government जो vote करेगा उसका 2/3 calculate होगा और जो भी center government के members जो vote cast करेंगे that will be called as weighted average of 1/3, correct? So that will multiply and then will identify, and this particular weighted average shall not be less than 3/4 of the weighted votes of the member present. No act or proceedings of GST council shall be invalid. No act or proceeding, हम randomly कोई भी act of GST council को invalid नहीं बोल सकते, merely on the reasons that the vote of central government shall have weighted of 1/3 of the total votes cast, and the votes of the state government shall taken together shall have a weightage of 2/3 of the total votes cast in that meeting, correct? जो total जो votes आने वाले हैं, suppose कि अगर 30 votes आए उसमें से जब तक 20 votes स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से नहीं हो और 10 वोट्स सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से नहीं हो तो ये मेरा तो फिर ये मेरा वोटिंग का कोरम नहीं बैठने वाला, करेक्ट? सो बट व्हाट एवर डिसीजंस वी आर टेकिंग दैट कैन नॉट बी सेड टू बी इनवैलिड merely on the reason that any vacancy in or any defect in the constitution of the council, right? कोई वैकेंसी है या कोई डिफेक्ट है इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ काउंसिल, दैट विल नॉट बी अ रीजन टू मेक एनी ऑफ द डिसीजंस इनवैलिड. Any defect in the appointment of a person as a member of the council, right? अगर कोई member by गलती से appoint हो गया है, then the decisions cannot be said to be invalid. Any procedural irregularity of the council not affecting the merits of the cases, right? So if there is any irregularity by the council but it is not affecting the merits of the case, then also that is not going to be called the decision made by the council is invalid, right? So suppose a council ने कोई decision ले लिया कि tomorrow onwards they raise certain GST amount for corona collection, right? So they invoke some corona collection cess for say 5%, right? So nobody can say that यहाँ पे तो vacancy है, यहाँ पे तो defect है in the constitution of the council, so whatever the decision they have taken is invalid. It cannot be stated like that. यहाँ पे जो appointment of the member of person हुआ है, he should not be appointed, but he has been appointed. There's a defect in his appointment. So if there's a defect in his appointment, the whole decisions of council will go for a toss. It is not going to happen that way. So that plea will not be accepted. The GST Council shall establish a mechanism to adjudicate any disputes. If there's any dispute, the GST Council will have to find out the mechanism to adjudicate any disputes, right, between the government of India and one or more states, that is the central government and the states के बीच में अगर कोई dispute हुआ तो उसका mechanism लाना पड़ेगा. Between the government of India and any state or states on one side and one or more other states on the other side. सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट है और 5 स्टेट एक साइड है, बाकी स्टेट्स एक साइड है. अगर वैसा कुछ मैकेनिज्म आ गया है, डिस्प्यूट आ गया, तो उसका भी रेजोल्यूशन निकालना पड़ेगा. बिटवीन 2 or more states arising out of the recommendation of the council or implementation thereof. So in case if there is any dispute also, the dispute resolution mechanism be the GST council will have to bring into, correct? So this is what is there as far as the GST council is concerned. First we have seen कि constitution कैसे होगा, then we have seen उसके अंदर members कौन कौन होंगे, then we have seen कि उन members में से vice chairperson कौन बनेगा, then we have seen कि GST council जो है क्या क्या recommendation देगा, then we have seen that the date on which the taxes shall be levied on the petroleum, that also will be recommended by the GST council. Then we have seen that while discharging the functions conferred by this article, they shall be guided by the need for HSN. HSN का जो working करना है, that will also be guided by the GST council. Then we have seen that one of the members which have been appointed above, they are required minimum for the quorum. उसके बिना meeting start नहीं हो सकता. Then the GST council shall determine the procedure and performance of its function. जो भी उनको functions fulfill करने हैं, उसके जो procedures हैं, उनका SOP बना ले में. And then every decisions of the Goods and Service Tax Council shall be taken at a meeting, right? जो भी decision होगा meeting में लेना है by a majority of not less than 3/4 of the weighted votes of the members present, right? 3/4 of the weighted votes of the member present and voting in accordance with the following principles, correct? So जो भी votes आएंगे, अगर central government का आएंगे, उनका weightage होगा 1/3 और state government का आएंगे, उनका weightage जो average होगा 2/3, correct? So we'll have to multiply that votes into 1/3 and 2/3, and then we have to come that the total votes should come to 3/4 of the total public, correct? No act और proceedings of GST council shall be invalid. अगर कोई GST council के अंदर defect है, then whatever decisions they have taken, they will not be classified as an invalid decision. Now, they should also form a dispute resolution mechanism, जहां पे अगर state और government के बीच में कोई भी dispute है, उसको कैसे resolve करना है, they will have to identify that mechanism. So this is all as far as the constitutional aspects of GST is concerned. Now we have just covered the basic framework and the overall view of GST. कैसे लगेगा, क्या लगेगा, what is the transactions, what is the constitutional provision which has given this power to levy the GST, कौन से constitution के अंदर बदलाव आया तो GST आ सका. All this thing we have understood in this particular section today, where we have covered the introduction in 3 parts. First part was basically the transaction life cycle. Then we understood the few features of GST. Then we understood the constitutional aspects under GST. GST कैसे invoke किया गया. And this is what is there as far as the introductory aspects are concerned. From tomorrow onwards, we'll be starting full-fledgedly with GST, जहां पे हम शुरू करेंगे concept of supply के साथ, and what is the concept of supply, and in each chapter, what are the definitions which are relevant, we'll be covering with the definitions in the chapter itself, and then we will understand how the flow of GST will moving ahead. Thank you, and let us wait for tomorrow for the other session.